just touched down in Sacramento. Had a little bit of issue getting out of SeaTac because, not because of security. Security was actually perfect for once, but the gates changed at the last second. So I made the very last boarding call for the plane, which was crazy, but I made it, and I had the entire row to myself. It was awesome. So I'm gonna go meet everybody down at baggage claim and get this weekend started. Hi,
Rebecca.
Little Skittle.
Where are you at?
I
You were so many
am
flip-floppers last year. It's crazy.
right here.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Oh.
Every time.
Jeans, PCP.
It was really weird just like standing there for the second time. It was like, wow, can't believe I'm here again.
Oh, I'm telling your wife.
Hi.
So if you put your face up, it'll just come up and sniff it.
Yeah, that's what she did. Yeah, it's got my cheek. Law firm.
You guys have kids?
I have a daughter by marriage, Nancy's daughter, and she's 38. Lives in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Okay.
Or no, Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver.
Okay.
That's where Jeff is from.
I just left the house. Grizz and Alan and I were hanging out there after getting back from the airport. We were just having a bite to eat and chatting, but I wanted to get out and stretch my legs, get some fresh air. So there's a little nice 5K stretch of trail out behind their house, which is really nice. It's very peaceful out here, but it's been so nice so far. Sorry, I almost dropped you. We went to the PCTA headquarters, met some people, got a little introduction about what this weekend's going to be about. Really excited. The main focus is raising funds for the PCT and the PCTA. That's the main reason we're all here. It's such an important weekend. I'm really excited to be a part of it. And Alan and Nancy are so incredible and so hospitable and kind and generous, and they're putting us up for the whole weekend, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. I'm so honored that they've asked me to be here. Their house is amazing. It is called the Nest for a reason. You just want to nest. The fridge is full of food. I'm gonna leave 10 pounds heavier probably, but I gotta make up for the trail magic I missed with them. Grizz was talking about it, and it sounds like it was just phenomenal. Ice cream and baked goods and just anything you could ever want, basically. I missed it, so making up for that this weekend, and I will work it off later. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. I'm really honored. It's a great thing to be a part of. I want to be able to give back to the trail that gave so much to me, and it's nice to be able to meet people also that have had such a profound experience as well. So really excited about this. This walk is giving me major flashbacks of the aqueduct, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Well, I'm feeling super honored to be a part of this weekend for the PCTA. I had no idea really how much this meant to the organization and the fundraising it would provide the trail. But after talking with Jack at the PCTA and talking more with Alan, like 70% of the donations that come into the PCTA are from individuals. And that's basically who's coming to this event, is individuals buying tickets, individuals making donations. So I feel so incredibly honored to be a part of this, especially with past people who've been involved. Legend was here one year, Happy Feet and Starburst were here, and now it's us who braved the craziness of the Sierra this year, or this last year. It's 2020 now. So yeah, it's very honorable feeling right now, and I'm really excited to meet everybody this weekend and share our story, and hear more from the other people who went through the same thing as me. It's been hard to really connect with people. I didn't see many people after the Sierra who went through, and now I have the chance to connect with people who went through the very same thing I did. So I'm really excited to connect. Now you see what I'm saying? Lots of nostalgia. Lots of nostalgia. And now a climb. Pretty peaceful out here. Only passed one other person with a dog, so it's been pretty quiet. I like it. Having a little bit of flashbacks of Goat Rocks area. If you guys did watch that vlog, I had a bit of a downpour on my nose with blood, not mucus. Not as bad as that, but a little bit of stuff. But I don't have any napkins, so I'm hoping it doesn't get any worse.
From Trail Magic one, and I bought a case of bananas. It's kind of raining.
Maybe sprinkle a little bit.
And nobody ate any bananas for that whole weekend we're up there. I'm like, what the hell?
Really?
We put as many as we could in the freezer for cooking because they're starting to go bad.
Yeah.
The llama ate 18 in a row, peels and all. And I'm like, I should have videoed that man. And all of a sudden his eyes just started going like this. And he's just like, I think I'm getting full.
Have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Pardon me?
Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Cheetah!
You fat lard. Damn.
Oh, she sees you. Don't be shy.
It's totally fine. Hello, beauty. See, it's already preparing the stick. Nope. So he wants to smell you. You blow in his nose, he's getting used to you. Or he gets you smell better.
Pickles, I see you. Pickles, you gonna melt?
Can I touch it? If he'll let you, yeah. He's usually about a foot away from your hand when you try to touch him. That's enough.
My turn.
It's my boogers going on. Followed this shift.
Yeah.
And where it takes us, and we had no intention of turning this into a 501c3 charity or fundraising or anything. But we know now we just follow the goodness.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing for us.
Yeah, it's like, we know it's a power greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's been, like everybody talks about the trail provides, so it's truly provided something different for us as a couple. It's brought us even closer to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then just experiencing, to us, it's a beautiful experience, just watching the pureness of gratitude in people. Like it's pure gratitude.
Yeah.
You don't know them, they don't know you, and you're not doing it to get anything from anybody, and they don't know that they're feeding our soul. Like like the goodness, you know, they're just doing good for fun and for free, and
It's powerful.
very powerful.
The most amazing experience was in 2017. In 2016, this guy came through, and he was with a couple other people, and he was a retired policeman from Canada. And he says, I'm just out here trying to find my faith in humanity. And we're like, that's cool, man. You know, super nice guy. 2 years later, this guy comes through and he goes, do you remember me? And I go, yeah, you're the retired cop from Canada, trying to find faith in humanity. And he goes, I'm just trying to find faith in myself now.
Yeah.
So he sat there for a little while. He got up, he came over to talk to me, and you could tell he was wasn't used to being vulnerable.
Mm.
And it was, you could see something coming out of him, and he would break out and he'd turn around and he'd walk off into the woods and cry. And then he'd come back and he'd try to talk. It gets me. He says, I was in the Canadian Special Forces, and I was the Dalai Lama's bodyguard. He says, every single time that Dalai Lama would shake somebody's hand, he would shake their hand as if they were the king. There's no difference in anybody, you know. And he says, and I could never understand that because I'm looking for the bad.
Mm-hmm.
He says, that's my job, is to look for the bad and keep them safe. He said, but he always told me, he says, be kind and feed people. And he says, so here you are 2 years later, being kind and still feeding people. And he just broke down and he goes, I get it now, you know. And it's just like, you know, and that's what we're there for, you know. It's just, it's like, who's it, Nepo, that said, the troubles you have inside are exactly what we need. You know, it's like, just, it's safe here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a party, it's not a, how many beers can you drink and let's do the limbo and all that. We're here to just nurture your soul, man, because of the energy of what you're doing is life changing. And you can see how it's changed your life in 1 year.
Yeah.
I mean, what it means to you. Look at your lifestyle now. I mean, and you're taking that out into the world. That's a beautiful thing. So that's why we do it, man. It just feels good.
Yeah.
Out here
It's just simple, like in terms of boundaries, like you can be friends with people that are from like completely different social backgrounds that you will probably never like be friend with or even like have the chance to meet in your what we can call normal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
Not everybody's the same. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a
Yeah.
lawyer,
Yeah, I like that it's
Garbage
totally
man.
anonymous. Like,
doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. I don't
So
care what
everybody's
race,
coming-
what color, what money, no money. It
nobody's
doesn't
trying
matter.
to outdo each other, which is flipping cool because you've all just done the exact same thing to get to that point.
Mhm.
So what are you gonna do to impress the guy behind you? You know, it's just like, dude, we're all in this.
Yeah,
you know?
we're all facing the same thing out there.
Yeah, and that's what we love about it is, it's just it's humbling
Very humbling.
for us
Yeah.
to see that energy put out, life
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, like that last couple.
We had
you
a
know.
blonde gal
Oh,
southbound last year.
Yeah.
Young, came in with like a lot of bravado, a section hiker that hadn't like burnt it out of her yet, you know what I'm saying? But had done enough miles, a few hundred miles, and almost like had to be a comedian, you know,
Sure.
kind of, there's still a little bit of that look at me in there.
Yeah.
Calmed down, she got calmer and calmer, then she wouldn't leave, then she got really quiet and sat over there. And when she finally got up to leave, she was crying so hard because she was getting such a mom, you know, the motherly with her, you and was it Jan?
Yeah, she was crying when
Yeah, she was just
After-
hugging the mothers,
Mm.
you know, because she was missing that so much.
Mhm.
And, we had someone write in the register, you know, just thanks for being the parents that I never had.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a moment of comfort.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
Yeah,
Piece of home you find on trail.
Yeah.
yeah.
Fox 40, this is Barnett.
Hi Barnett, Alan Hammond with the Pacific Crest Trail hikers, and we're really early.
Someone will come get you.
Hey,
Thank you for coming.
how you doing?
Ed. Barnett.
This is it.
All right.
No, who's gonna fill this 5 minutes?
We're about to go on TV.
Stockton this morning, just outside of this meeting. Okay, we went to next year. Behind you, Olivia. Good morning.
You're still on air, so don't yell.
Got it.
Watch your step to the water waters. Now I'm just gonna stand over here, sit. Stand.
Will be having to pay about $17 million fine and he's barred by the government from ever working at a bank again. So, as you recall, a few years ago, they set up taking pounds without working the panic button. There have been a couple of tragic situations involving Tinder. So, the popular
record snowfall. We have a couple of hikers in the studio to share their unique experience in doing this beautiful trail. Adam's over there talking with them. Adam, I've always wanted to do.
I can imagine that a lot of people want to do this, but not everyone can. I'm joined by Mike and Rebecca, two people that have completed this, and I'm honored to stand next to them because this is no easy feat. So when did you decide that you wanted to hike over 2,000 miles and do this journey?
I don't think it was a definite point. It was just something you kind of romanticized.
It's like 16-mile hike's not enough for you. Or...
No.
What about you, Mike?
For me, it went back to 2015 was the first year I did a thru hike, and I did the Pacific Crest Trail in 2015.
Okay.
And I've done several since, but it was my favorite hike that I've done, and just decided to do it again.
I have to imagine. Now, was this one of the things you enjoyed or not enjoy about it? Going through the Sierra, you have that record-setting snow year, tons of snow, and as a meteorologist, I was forecasting it week after week after week. I was even considering people hiking through it, but what was it like for you guys?
It was like a dream. It was very
good.
scary. Yeah. Sometimes were nightmares, definitely, but it was very much like nothing I'd ever experienced.
So you have to prepare for this. You're bringing all the proper clothing. I mean, you're doing this with everything on your back, right?
Yeah.
So you have to snowshoe at any point?
No.
No.
I didn't bring snowshoes at all.
Gotcha.
No.
So how was the snow for you in your experience?
It was definitely a challenge. It was a great challenge. The previous time I had done the hike, it was a drought year in 2015. So going through the Sierras, there was no snow whatsoever.
So you got both ends of it.
Yeah, completely different experience, and really a great experience.
Would you rather have no snow or some snow?
I think I'll take no snow.
That's easier. So where are you guys from originally?
I'm from the Seattle area. It's me.
Okay.
Originally Detroit area, but I live in Denver now.
I got you. But the West Coast and the Sierra is pretty much new to you, and maybe you've experienced before hiking?
Yeah. Not the Sierra, but the Cascades.
Cascades,
Yeah.
gotcha. And this is an amazing thing. So how long did it take you guys?
Mine was 135 days.
135 days. And to put this in perspective, you are hiking, no permanent shelter, just walking for 135 days. And Michael, yourself?
127 days.
127 days. Incredible. And what was your biggest takeaway once you finished it? How did you feel?
Empowered. Like you can do anything.
I have to imagine, right? If you can hike 2,600 miles, right?
Yeah.
You can pretty much do anything. I mean, Michael, how do you feel?
Same. I mean, when you get done with a hike like that, you feel like you can take on the world. Like nothing is too difficult for you. So
One more question. Would you do it again?
Yes.
I'd do it a third time.
Third time? No, I can do it. All right, Richard, we'll have with you next time. Let's send it over to Richard to check the roads for you guys now.
Oh my gosh, I feel like such a slouch now.
Why that? Why did I have to pay?
So he had some, I think he had
That's my bubble! Beats, Galvana, Froggy.
No.
Did you meet them?
No.
No?
Not that.
See, like,
no.
oh.
Getting comfortable.
See, just like 1 week after, and you get like
It's a
just
whole different
a
group
whole
of
different
people,
bubble.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so making tracks and not yet got off at Cabazon at the 10.
Okay.
Because he got sick, and then it was like a blood pressure issue. I hiked with them too for a bit.
This is all couples?
Yeah. I met them after mile 500.
I have no idea what that is. San Jacinto behind. That was a hell of a downhill.
Oh, God.
20 miles straight.
Can you imagine doing it the other way, going southbound?
People are beautiful.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah. I don't want to step on them.
You can just do a slow pan and start
Oh
here
my
and just
gosh.
walk this way.
Holy hell. Oh my gosh.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole plan.
Okay. Yes, you were reading here.
What we want? We want. Do you want like perreo, like reggaeton, but like uptown reggaeton?
Yeah, we look like an old tin shit.
Drink Hi, what's going on? I'm just strapped on the headphones. I think I got the volume set right.
An awesome space. Show yourself if you bring your head and your head attached to your body.
It was like a terrible moment because like it was my friend. He was the guy that I was hiking since day one, and I knew that I was losing him like right now from one day to another. I will never see him again. So it was really difficult. Yeah, it wasn't a fun time, but that happens. I mean, like, he's fine. He's really fine. That was the most important thing.
You kept going. And I've heard an expression, there are things we always remember, and then there are things we will never forget. And your words there about watching his headlamp go down the side of the mountain, how could anybody ever forget that?
No, that was terrible. Forever, I will remember it forever.
We're speaking to 4 Pacific Crest Trail hikers that hiked from Mexico to Canada over this past year. Went through the High Sierra at a particularly difficult year. A lot of difficulty, a lot of challenge, and they all kept going. I'm going to switch to flamethrower again. We're calling folks by their trail names this morning, and we will this afternoon down at the State Theater as well. I've heard an expression used several times this morning already that was kind of new to me, because when I did that trail, there weren't so many of us. Trail family. Could you try to explain to the folks listening out there, what does trail family really mean?
Trail family.
is the group of people you meet along the way. So I should preface this by explaining or sharing that the number one question that I get when I tell people that I hike the Pacific Crest Trail is, did you go alone? And I try to tell people there's really no alone, especially if you're hiking in the prime hiking season, which begins in the southern terminus around April and into May. You are going to see people whether you want to or not. So if you're going to do the trail for solitude, you can be alone if you want to. But I also tell people, if you want companionship and you don't have anyone to go with, don't let that stop you. Because if you want to meet people to hike with, you will. And so I had a friend start with me the first 3 days, and he had to get back to his life. So I continued hiking, and by then I had met people on day one that I had fallen into on pace. And you meet people at water sources and at campsites, and you start seeing familiar faces over and over again. You see them on the trail, you see them in town. And so eventually you take a liking to certain people, you like their vibe, or you come together around common things, whether you're from the same state, or common jokes, or anything that brings you together. And eventually, and it's really, there's no contract signed anywhere. It's really unspoken. You're just hiking together. You one day decide, okay, let's all camp at this site, and people are like, okay, sure. And then we all hike during the day, mostly alone, or if you want to talk to someone while you're hiking, you do that. But mostly I like to hike alone, and either just, be alone with my thoughts, or listen to an audiobook, or if I'm going up a hard climb, then maybe listen to some music. And so there's many ways to occupy your thoughts while you're hiking, as you know. And then at the end of the day, I would meet up with my trail family at camp, and we would compare notes. And, oh, how did you clear that stream? And how did you cross, that log? Or sometimes if it's really difficult, then we'll wait for each other and we'll cross together, or we'll do a pass together. But it's very fluid. It's really, there's also the understanding that if you have to hike your own hike, if you have to stay back in town or go ahead, or like Rooster was describing how his trail family really came apart after this traumatic incident, then there's no hard feelings. I mean, everyone's out to hike their own, to do their own path and their own trail. So I had several people that I consider trail family, and some of them I hiked for as little as 100 miles. My longest hiking partner, we hiked about half of the trail. And the partner that I had through the Sierra was a woman from Denmark, Crazy Burrito. She was my partner from Tehachapi, so from about mile 550 to Sierra City, which is about mile 1200. And so we went through a lot together. She had to be airlifted at one point from Bullfrog Lake, which is on the PCT, which is a trail that takes you out of Kearsarge Pass, if anyone's been there. So after that, because we had a deal, we had promised each other to stay together. I waited for her in Bishop for 5 days while she was airlifted and treated at a hospital in Visalia, and had to get a ride back all around the Sierra, down from Visalia to Lake Isabella area and up to Bishop. And so once we got back together again, we were back on trail. And she actually finished ahead of me. She finished 2 weeks ahead. She had to get back home to Denmark by a certain date. So when we were in the northern Sierra, in Yosemite, I told her, you do what you have to do. I understand that you need to go back home, and if you need to hike ahead. So to me, that was unspoken, but I felt like I had to say that just so she didn't feel guilty about hiking on, or myself if I had to do that. So the trail family is really the people that you become close to on trail, and you end up making decisions together, and and go into town, go back on trail, and they're your friends for life.
The most memorable part of the trail, I think, is the people that you met. I think the listeners are getting an idea now that PCT is not just a walk in the park. It's a challenge. There's bugs, there's mountains, there's snow, there's rain, there's ice, there's physical challenges. Let me ask Grizzly this question. I think you've done more hiking than, certainly more than me and more than some of the others. Talk just a little bit about the physical challenge of hiking.
Sure. I mean, for me, through hiking, it is definitely very physical. It's also very mental. And I think there's definite shifts throughout a through hike where maybe at the beginning, when your body's getting used to the mileage, the weight on your shoulders, the heat, it is a lot of physical. And the physical can sometimes turn into more mental as well, where then you just have to push yourself and tell yourself you're going to be fine. Your body's going to get used to it. The soreness is going to go away. And I think throughout a through hike, there's all these different cycles of that, where it might be physical, it might be more mental, it might go back to being more physical. I know this year, going into the trail, I did a lot of preparation for it, and it wasn't that hard physically to start off with in the desert. And it really wasn't that hard mentally. But once you got to the Sierras, and all of a sudden you were doing half the amount of miles that you were doing, and you're trying to do it at elevation while post-holing in snow and dealing with ice and the mountain passes and the river crossings, it became a lot more physically difficult. And I think after you have 700-800 miles under your belt in a through hike, and something all of a sudden becomes hard, mentally it's a little bit difficult too, when you're looking at your mileage at the end of every day and you're saying, why did I only do 18 or 20 miles when I had been doing 30 or 35 miles? Why is this so hard? And it can be, it can be hard on you mentally, as far as just telling yourself you're doing a great job, keep going. I think throughout the hike, it keeps coming in cycles, and there's always different challenges that present themselves, whether it be the snow in the Sierras, you get into Northern California and it becomes the heat. You get to the Pacific Northwest and it might be snow or rain or just fog, and maybe you're not seeing views that you want to see and you're mentally upset because of that. There's every day is a different physical challenge or mental challenge out there. And there's very few days where you just kind of walk along all day long and get to camp and you're like, that was easy. It's not really a thing.
Did you have any moments along the trail where you had doubts?
Yeah, I think going through the Sierra this time with that amount of snow, every single day there was times where it was like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. I've done this before. It was easier the last time. And I think when I got out of the Sierra and got to Northern California and I was finally doing an entire day of hiking without any snow, it's kind of like, this is great. This is quote unquote easier hiking. It was definitely a lot more relaxing. And I think once I got out of the Sierra and got out of the snow, I also, for me personally, I kind of looked at it as, I'm going to make it, unless something really drastic happens and I hurt myself in a major way, I'm going to make it to Canada.
I think one of the things I'm going to ask you folks this afternoon down at the theater is, I'm sure you know many that didn't make it, because I think only about 20% or so in these days make it to the end of the trail. It is a daunting task, and you guys should be proud of what you accomplished and what you learned. I'm just going to ask one more question. I'm going to go back to Little Skittles. You had an experience that happened in your family when you were going along that trail. Would you mind sharing that just a little bit and how it affected you?
Yeah. So I was traveling alone through the last bit of NorCal. I separated from my last person in my family. Her name is Darth Jader. And I was really excited to get to Ashland, get into Oregon. I wanted to start the 2-week challenge. For those unaware, it's where you take 2 weeks and blow through all of the miles in Oregon just to see if you can do it. So just a little bit of Sufferfest. I get to Ashland. My boyfriend met me there. It's the first time I'd seen him since. He dropped me off at the southern terminus. And my brother and his wife coincidentally were coming down the same weekend. She's got family in Wairika, so they decided to coincidentally come down. And my brother told me that my grandma had passed. She actually passed at the halfway point back in NorCal. And my grandma told my mom and everybody else to keep it a secret that her health was failing and she wasn't going to make it. Because they knew that I would come home. Because I'm kind of considered my mom's keeper. I'm there for her. She's got a mental disorder. And I knew that, everybody knew that I would come home to be with her to help her through it. And she wanted to make sure that nothing would stop me from finishing. And that she wanted to be my full-time trail angel. And to get to Canada with me. So they waited till I got to Ashland to tell me. And my brother's my closest sibling. And he came down to tell me. And it was a really, really hard weekend. I did have a little bit of doubt that I would get back on trail. But I knew I didn't come that far to only come that far. And I would do anything for my grandma. And if that's what she wanted, I would do it. So it took every ounce of mental grit I had to get through Oregon. And it gave me a little bit of steam fuel to get through the 2-week challenge, because I wanted to finish. I wanted to get home. I wanted to get closer to Washington. And that made it easier knowing I was getting closer, because if I did need to take a day or two off, I'm already home. I can go home for a day or two and come back to trail if I need it. I did end up doing it. I was a little nervous of if I would get back on trail if I did take a day or two off. So I stayed on trail and I finished. And I was given these 2 pins that my grandma picked out from the hospital and gave to my brother. So I wore those the rest of the trail. And I still wear them every time I hike now. So I take her outside with me everywhere.
So from listening to these hikers, if any of you out there have any doubt about what it takes, you could see these 4 folks walking down the street and you'd think they're just folks from Nevada City looking around, seeing what it's like. But they've all shared an experience, and by the way, fewer people have done this trail than have climbed Mount Everest. There's not that many. And I'm gonna, have to wrap it up right now. But you'll get a chance to hear all this And if you choose, there's an event at the State Theater in Auburn starting at 3 o'clock. You can hear more of these thoughts and more of these stories and turn out pretty much just like this. So to Rooster and Flamethrower and Grizzly and Little Skittles, thank you. See you guys later today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Larry.
Our pleasure.
My chair deck still works.
Yeah, you win.
Wow.
Right on. That's what it's about, folks. Life.
Yeah.
Good job, you guys.
Thanks.
There's a backpack.
Tear ducts start stinging.
So you have another trail family member
There's a fire.
traveling with you.
Yeah.
I haven't been warm since they last fall.
I had a similar experience as I told you, and the others want us to finish. She wanted you to finish.
Oh, that's Irish. Let's hope it is by today. Or today.
We just got to the State Theater. The marquee's here in the background. Very awesome. Very excited about this. Let me take you inside and you guys can see the awesome huge blow-ups they have of our faces. It's pretty epic. Oh wow. Got the cookies.
Cookie keeper.
Little Skittle, Grizzly, Flamethrower.
We just got done with the talk. They're breaking down the stage back there right now, but we're gonna head over to the brewery and say hi to some people who want to come say hi to us. So. What are you doing to the sheep?
Congrats, guys, we did well.
You guys are
Go us!
That was fun.
Well
done.
Yeah.
It was a little nerve-wracking too, though.
Yeah?
I gotta admit.
I wasn't nervous.
You guys
I
wasn't.
I had the headache actually, just a like stress headache.
I was most nervous for TV, and it's gotten so much better
Yeah.
since.
Yeah, you were terrified for TV.
Oh God, it's bad.
Deer meat headlights.
Yeah.